Hey guys, I'm Props, and today I'm making Hunter's helmet from the Bad Batch out of cardboard and plaster. So the first thing I did was went through and traced out the same templates that I used for Bo-Katan's helmet. These are foam helmet templates, so we are going to have to modify them a little bit for cardboard, and all we need to do for that is cut some darts in the sides as we glue them together. That way the cardboard bends the same as if it were foam. And you just glue each of the darts together, and it causes the cardboard to bend the same way that foam does. Well, not really the same way, but it makes it the same shape as if the foam were bent like it should be. And I went through and glued all the pieces together using some strips of cardboard to hold them all together, and then just hot glue to hold everything together. I then went through and cut some strips of cardboard and glued those along the inside of the helmet just to help me glue on the other part of the helmet. And this is just some cardboard pieces that I cut to about 10 inches long. And these are just really a rough estimate. I'm going to do a lot of modifying of these pieces to get them the right shape. Then I went through and cut out the visor and then the nose part, and then I cut the whole faceplate in half and then glued in the nose piece, which I just cut out using a lot of guesswork before I glued that in. Then I went through and cut out some spots in the bottom and then glued in some cardboard tubes to create the tube vent sections that clone trooper helmets have. I then went through and made the rounded part that goes along the bottom brim of the helmet, just layering a bunch of pieces of cardboard together to get this shape. I only did the front half at first so that I could go through and make the ear details later. And then I went through and glued on the chin detail, or mouth part, I guess. And I just did some guesswork on that and then cut it out. It is slightly rounded, so I did run the cardboard and glue in a cardboard tube to help it hold its shape. I then went through and made the ear details, just cutting out a rectangle with a rounded top edge and then just layering a few pieces of cardboard together of that same shape to get it right. I then went through and covered that in some thin cardboard and then glued it on. Then I went through and made the back rounded section that goes around the bottom, and I just did this the same way as the front, cutting off an angle of one of the corners just to give it the rounded look that it needs. I made the back section out of some cardboard as well, just the same way as the ear pieces, and then I glued on a strip of cardboard to cover up the front seam, as well as fixing up some mistakes that I had made on the visor. And then I went through and spackled the whole helmet using some lightweight spackling. You probably want to use some type of flexible spackling, because I did have to fill in a bunch of cracks and stuff that had happened because this stuff does not flex at all. So you definitely want to use something a little more flexible than this. Though I did coat this in some Mod Podge just to help it retain some stability. I then went through and sanded the whole thing using some 220 sandpaper, and then I painted it black with some black primer, and then glued in some of the details like the vent sections that go in the front, and then some of the ear details and some details that went on the back of the helmet as well. And then I went through and painted the rest of the helmet black using some flat black primer, and then I went through and hand painted on some of the details. I then went through and mixed up some white paint and brushed on the decorative painting that Hunter has on the side of his helmet. I used a sponge brush for this to get the streaks in there really well, since this is obviously hand painted. And then I went through and hand painted on the red details. I did mix up a few different red coats just to give it a little bit of a variety in there. And then I went through and weathered the whole thing with a dark gray paint just to give it the nice brush stroke look that the Clone Wars helmets always have. And then I went through and glued in a visor, which I colored in with a Sharpie, and I think this turned out pretty good. I honestly think this is the best helmet that I've made to date, and it definitely took the amount of time that I thought it would take. I mean, I must have been sanding this thing for a week before I was finally happy with it. And it fits really well on my head, and I can see out of it, and yeah, it's really great. If any of you guys use any of these techniques that I used on this, please let me know so that I can show whatever things you guys made on here. If you guys don't mind checking out my Etsy shop, I have a ton of lightsabers and 3D printed stuff and stuff that I've made over the past couple of months on there. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys don't mind liking and subscribing, please do. Let me know what helmets and props and stuff you guys want me to make so I can get ready and get on them. Thank you guys for watching. See ya.